So our first speaker is going to be introduced by Anand, and right here. Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce Dr. Shahid Hashmi, board certified in internal medicine, nephrology, and obesity medicine, currently working at Kaiser Permanente, Woodland Hills, member of the board of Southern California Permanente Medical Group, and wellness champion, Woodland Hills. Dr. Shahid Hashmi.
Okay, somebody's too young to get ready for college. I apologize. Okay, guys. So, who here is applying to college? Let me just get a show of hands. So I know all you guys, so I can pick on you. Raise them, be proud. It's okay. Raise your hands. Okay. So here's the purpose of this talk today. I think the microphone has a little bit of an echo, so I'll move closer. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, can you guys hear me okay, or is the echo too much? It's okay? All right. So what I'm going to tell you guys about a little bit is not just about exercising as you get into college, but how to truly take care of yourself. And this will apply to you, but this will also apply to your parents who are sitting next to you. So there's nothing bad. It's all good. And hopefully you're going to walk away with some tools that you can start using right away. So when we talk about taking care of yourself, I want you to remember the self part. That's S-E-L-F. That's it. That's the secret to taking care of yourself. So when we talk about self, there are four main components. The first one is sleep. As you get into college, you're going to find that you're going to stay up late at night. You're going to find that you're going to use the weekends to catch up because you're really not going to want to sleep on the weekdays for other reasons. Hopefully it's because you're studying really hard. But the most important thing you have to remember is this. When I was going to college, it used to be like the freshman 5. It's now like the freshman 15. I think some people call it the freshman 30. That's how many pounds you're going to gain. And what's the number one cause for gaining weight? It actually is a lack of sleep. If you do not sleep more than 7 hours a night, you will gain weight. This also applies to your parents, by the way. So everybody on the table, take notes. 7 hours. If you're getting 7 hours or less, guess what the problem is? You are going to start to gain weight. So what are things you can do? Should you start popping pills? There's all sorts of pills. Benadryl, melatonin, Ambien, and the list goes on and on and on. But what can you do to make sure that you sleep well? I'm going to give you a couple very, very simple tips. First, and this is probably the hardest thing you're going to have to do, but guess what? You've got to wake up at the same time every day. I know that sounds crazy, but you have to. So if you wake up at 7 o'clock every day, what you do is you set up your rhythm. It's called your circadian rhythm. This is how your body functions. It's functioning based on the time you wake up. So as you adjust the time you wake up, it backtracks and sets up the time you go to sleep. Does that make sense? So what you got to focus on, most importantly, is when you wake up. And that doesn't mean on Saturday you can sleep until 2. Nobody sleeps until 2. You got to get up at the same time on the weekends too. And if you do that, you're going to find that it's much easier for you to start going to sleep. Number 2, this is really, really important. There was a recent study done. They took these college students, hence all of you, very, very soon. They took these college students and they locked them up in the room, actually 2 rooms. So one of the students, they told them, you know what, before you go to bed, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of books and you can read them, and there you go. The second group of students, they said, you know what, we're going to give you your iPhone. Here's your iPhone, here's your iPad, do whatever you want, and go to sleep. Which one of the 2 slept better? The books. Why? Anybody know why? It's really important, yes.
The light from the phone keeps the brain awake.
That's exactly right. So what does that lead to?
You're not falling asleep.
And?
You're not falling asleep.
And?
You're staying awake.
And?
Obesity.
Okay. I'll just tell you. I'll just tell you. We'll be at this all day otherwise. It lowers your melatonin levels. Melatonin is the natural hormone that's produced in your body that allows you to sleep. So when you are in a situation where you have light, specifically it's the blue light that comes from the phones and any kind of electronic devices. When you get exposure to that blue light before you go to bed, it actually lowers your melatonin levels in your body. As it lowers the melatonin levels, it makes it harder for you to fall asleep. Now, some of you will say, doesn't matter, I fall asleep anyways. But here's the problem. What's the purpose of sleep? What's the purpose of sleep? Rest. Okay, more important. Or even more important. That's what I would like to think, but it's not rest. What's the purpose of sleep? Anybody? Yes?
The body to rejuvenate.
Rejuvenate. Even more important than that. You're on the right track. You're getting warmer.
To have dreams and have REM sleep.
Now that's very, very close. Here's what it is. It's to get rid of all the junk that's going in your brain right now. The only real way to remember something is to sleep on it. When you study something, what happens is, like right now, I'm looking around and I'm seeing different color shirts, pants, shoes, I'm seeing the lights. All this information is not important to me, but it's going in my brain. So at night, when I go to sleep, my brain synthesizes all the information. This is why when you truly want to remember something, you should not cram for a test the night before. You need to give it several days because your brain will synthesize the information every single night as you go to bed, and it will get rid of all the junk. So the most important part of sleep is to allow you to learn. It's actually not for rest. It's allowing the brain to clean itself up for the next day. That is the most important part of sleep. So any questions about sleep? That's the S in self. Any questions? 7 hours at a minimum. Sleep. Wake up at the same time every day. No iPad at least a couple of hours before bed. Yes?
So how important is falling asleep before midnight?
So, great question. How important is falling asleep before midnight? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you set up your circadian rhythm appropriately. So in other words, if you are used to sleeping at 2 in the morning, and then you're waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning every single day, that's okay, as long as that's the same pattern you do every single day. The mistake is when we start trying to change that pattern every other day. But if you have a pattern, then that's the most important thing, because what that's going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to clean the brain. So the answer is it does not matter as long as it's the same time every single day. It's a habit. Yes?
What is your message for your parents and students who, especially children, they have a cell phone in their rooms and they are still texting their friends until midnight,
right.
11 o'clock?
Right.
Is that healthy or unhealthy?
So I think, if you look at that study was pretty interesting and very clear. What it showed was that let me stand maybe here.
Farther away.
That speaker?
Away from the speaker.
Away from the speaker. I'll stand over here. How's that? Yeah. So what the study showed was very clear. Their melatonin levels dropped dramatically. And if your melatonin levels drop and you're not getting the REM sleep, you wake up the next day, you're tired. You're tired and you're grumpy, and what happens when you're tired and you're grumpy? You eat potato chips. If you eat potato chips, what happens? You gain weight. You gain weight, what happens? You get diabetes. You get diabetes, what happens? You get kidney disease. You get kidney disease, what happens? You have to see a guy like me. And it's never good to see a guy like me. So the answer is don't text.
Don't text.
I think that's a bit extreme, but you get the message.
For myself, I work night shifts. I have 3 night shifts, 12 hours and off, so my sleep pattern is changed quite a bit.
Yeah. I will tell you, night shift is the worst job ever. They can never pay you enough to justify you working nights. They can't. Every study out there has always shown that the people who work nights, unfortunately, they have it the hardest. Chronic diseases come very, very fast. There isn't a good solution to it. There really isn't. I wish I could tell you, take a melatonin pill, you'll be fine. The reason people take melatonin is just so that they can fall asleep, to try to get back on the rhythm. But here's another important, I see your hand, I'll get to you in 1 second. There's a very important point about sleep aids. Do not take sleep aids, okay? Your doctors will give them to you like candy. The reason is every single sleeping medication is habit forming. You will get used to it, and they will stop working, and guess what? Now you can't do without them. You know the worst part about wanting to go to sleep? Is you start thinking about, I have to go to sleep. And then you think harder, and then you get more revved up, and you can't go to sleep, and guess what you want to do? I really want to go to sleep. But you can't because you keep thinking about it. The idea is to stop thinking about it. Yes, actually, sorry, I apologize. That's actually coming. That's the F in the self. Great question. I'll hold on to that question. Back there?
So what about melatonin?
Great question. So, are you going to get used to melatonin if you take melatonin externally? The answer is absolutely yes. You start taking melatonin every single night, guess what? It's not going to work. You'll start off at 3 milligrams, you'll be like, you know, just for tonight, let me take 5 milligrams. Let me take 6 milligrams because I just need to make sure I sleep. So the idea is they are habit forming. Even that, all that Tylenol PM that they tell you it's all safe to take, you know what Tylenol PM is, right? It's Benadryl. You know what's so dangerous about Benadryl is? In some people, it causes psychosis. And guess who's very, very prone to getting psychosis? The elderly. So if you have older parents, you should not be giving them Benadryl. The other thing it causes is urinary retention. They will hold on to their urine, which does what? Creates urinary tract infections that can lead to an infection in the blood, that can lead to full-blown sepsis, which will land you in the ICU. So Benadryl is not safe. Just because it's over the counter does not make it safe. And for young people who take it, they will tell you, you have the worst hangover the next day. You feel so groggy because its half-life is so long. It lasts in your system almost 24 hours. Question there.
Sir, the reason I'm bringing up this question just because we are a Muslim group and we do morning prayers. So if I am going to bed at 2 a.m. and then waking up 10 a.m., of course I'm going to miss my morning prayer.
Right.
So for our youth to build up a healthy habit as a Muslim, as a practicing Muslim.
Wake up at 5.
Okay. So therefore, me not to miss my morning prayer as a student,
Right.
and being a pious Muslim, what would be the best time to go to bed?
At least 7 hours before 10.
Which is
Right?
10.
That's right. That's it. Yes, sir. You had a question. Yes. You're okay? No, you're good with the question? Okay. Sure. Of course. Of course. But the concept of a minimum of 7 hours is the take-home message. Trying to wake up at the same time is the take-home message. Can we move on to the E? Because I still have an E and an L and an F.
Okay.
Question.
What about like breaking it up into 2 different sleeps? Like for example, if you sleep a little later, then you wake up for Fajr, and then you sleep again.
So you need a minimum of 90 minutes to get your REM sleep, right? So you want to try to get blocks of 90 minutes at a minimum. So if you're going to go back to sleep, you're trying to get that 90 minutes so you can have that period of REM sleep. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, for people who work at night shift, is it, they can sleep enough hours in the daytime, is it bad for them or no?
No. So you have to catch up, right? In other words, if you do the night shift, you're going to sleep during the daytime. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You got to do that. That's just the fact that it is. And for all the young people here today, one of the things you got to realize is the people who are talking about working night shifts is life is very difficult. You are going to have to work hard. A lot of the stuff that you might have been privileged to right now, you're only privileged to it is because your parents worked so hard. And they're still working so hard to provide that for you. So as you go into college and as you think about all these things, and if you're lucky enough for your parents to help you with tuition, and as you think about those things, just remember how hard it is for them and how important it is. It's very easy for me to stand up here and say, you should go to bed at 10. When some of your parents are already telling me right now, they're staying up all night to work so they can just put food on the table. So in no way does this discount the fact that sometimes you just have to do those things. Contrary to what the popular advice may be, we don't have a choice. Okay, E, yes? All right. All are we doing on time, guys? Because I don't want to run out of time. Okay? All right. So the E part is the exercise part. So exercise. Let's talk about exercise real quickly for those people. Anybody in here never step foot in a gym? Never? Oh, all right. I got one. I got two. I got two. Well, yeah, you know what? Okay. It's never too late to start, so don't worry. But exercise. So what kind of exercise is going to give you the most bang for your buck? So here's the thing. You don't need to spend 2 hours in the gym, number one. Number two is when you go in the gym, there's a few things to know. So just so you know my background, I'm a board-certified obesity medicine specialist. What that means is basically I prescribe medications for weight loss. I take care of patients for bariatric surgery, pre and post, and stuff like that. But I also used to be a personal trainer, so I used to design weight loss programs, workout programs, and so forth. So let me just tell you the basics of working out. The most important thing to remember is don't be one of those people on the treadmill that just kind of runs and runs and runs and runs for like an hour, and you think you got a workout. First of all, you just wasted an hour, right, that you're never going to get back. And if you caught up on YouTube and you watched your favorite sitcom, that's great, but you didn't really work out, and you don't have time for that. So I want you to remember this word. It's called HIIT, H-I-I-T, HIIT. It's called High Intensity Interval Training. So for the parents, the advice that if you come in my office I give you is you should walk 30 minutes a day. Most of you don't, and I know that, because I see you. And you walk like 2 minutes and you call it 20 minutes, but that's not right. But here's what I want you to remember in that 30 minutes is you take a minute and you walk at a regular pace. But then the next minute, you walk really, really fast. Then the next minute, you walk at a regular pace. Then the next minute, you walk fast. And this is why it's important. Your body, I hate to tell you this, forgive me, I'm just the messenger. Your body is lazy. It is the laziest thing on the planet. And here's what it wants to do. It just wants to rest. So as soon as you start walking, it tries to say is, okay, what systems can I shut down so I don't burn a lot of energy? That's the first thing that goes through its head. Because it's designed to protect itself, and it says, wait, stop, you crazy person, you're trying to kill me with this walking. Right? So the first signal it tells you is, slow down, rest. Really, we got tomorrow. You won't see that doctor for 3 more months. It's okay. So remember, your body is trying to tell you to do the opposite. So if anybody in here says, you know what, my stomach is kind of big and I want to figure out how to get rid of that gut that I started to develop from college, right? Because I used to text at night, so then I eat the chips in the morning. You know how the story goes, right? So if you have a little bit of gut and you say, how do I get rid of it? For the exercise component, remember there's an F for food coming up, but in the exercise component, it's high intensity interval training. Got it? That's what you got to focus on. So that applies to your cardio. For the women, all the sisters in here, you got to remember, you need to lift weights. You need to lift weights. Do you know how rampant osteoporosis is in our community? Because our clothing hides everything, for guys and for the women. It's a wonderful idea, except for the fact that we all develop osteoporosis. We all have muscle wasting, and guess when it starts? At the age of 30. After the age of 30, you lose 1% muscle mass every single month. You lose 1% bone mass, and it's not every month, I apologize, it's every year. 1% bone mass, 1% muscle mass every year. 1% is a huge deal of muscle to lose every year. So after 30, it's all downhill. I'm kidding, only kidding. Please don't quote me on that. But the take-home message is this. If you don't do resistance training, your bones will get weak. Does calcium and vitamin D prevent osteoporosis? No. Does calcium and vitamin D fix osteoporosis? No. So you need to know that. And the reason you need to know that is when you look at the studies, the impact of calcium and vitamin D on bones is so little. It's so little. And then we start giving you bisphosphonates, and don't get me started on those, because then it's that slippery slope. But what you need to do, you still need to do resistance training, because that's the only way your bones say, I need to preserve bones because I need to prevent this person from trying to kill me. Your bones and your muscles respond to whatever you do to it. If you push every day, your muscles say, I need to get stronger so I can push harder. So resistance training is a must for men and women. Doesn't matter where you do it. You can do push-ups against the wall. You can do push-ups on the floor if you're able to. Doesn't matter, but you need to do resistance training. You have to. And what's a very simple resistance training? Hold a bottle of water. You're sitting in the chair. Stand up, sit down. Stand up, sit down. That's your squats right there. Just hold something heavy and do the same thing. You don't need a fancy gym to start doing that. And why is that such an important exercise? It's such an important exercise because as you get older, in order to maintain your functional status, the most important movement is to get out of bed. Just so you can wash your face, so you can get back into bed. That allows you mobility. Mobility is key. So the idea of being able to preserve your muscles and your bones has to start now. So that's the exercise part. Supplements. Creatine. All the guys in here are going to be going to college is going to say, I want big muscles, right? So I got to take lots of protein and I got to take lots of creatine. So here's the question for you. Is creatine bad for you? No, it's not. Somebody say yes? I like your style, sir. I do. You should come up and do this with me next time. You and me together. So the answer is no, it's not bad for you. The side effects are it will cause bloating, it causes GI upset, so you can be in the bathroom a lot. But other than that, it doesn't. But here's what you got to be careful of. It's really hard to find good quality supplements. If you realize right now, there's a lawsuit going on against Muscle Farm. And what is the lawsuit? The lawsuit is they've been telling you that they're giving you high quality protein when it's 50% quality protein. The rest of it is just cheap fillers. And Muscle Farm is one of the biggest manufacturers out there. So how do you ensure quality? So be careful about supplements because no amount of supplements will be enough to replace an actual real deal. So what's the real deal? Chicken. Chicken is a great source of protein. Egg whites are a great source of protein. Once or twice a week, lean beef is a great source of protein. Why not beef every single day? Because we do know that beef eaters who eat red meat every single day, they change their entire gut flora in their gut, which leads to increased atherosclerosis. Increased atherosclerosis. Vegetarians, on the other hand, don't have the same gut flora. So if they were to eat meat, it's not as toxic to them. And then the argument about is it grass-fed or not, and is it hormone-free or not, doesn't matter. The first step is the amount of red meat you eat. Red meat is linked to colon cancer, we all know that. Red meat is linked to heart disease, we know that. Whether the debate goes on about saturated fat or TMAO, that's debatable. But the bottom line is, it is linked, and there's a pretty strong link to it. That's the E. L. L stands for love, but love is very simple, is please call your parents. That's it. It's that simple. Call your parents. And this is why. We know that people, for example, we know that people who are alone, one person only, they're more likely to die of a heart attack than people who have a pet, or people who are married. Married people live longer than single people. Don't ask me why. You know? No. But it is a fact. And the reason for it is our human bodies crave nurturing, we crave attention, and we crave caring. And the most honest person who will love you no matter how bad and dumb and crazy you are is your parents. So call your parents. That's it. That's all the love part it is. Don't forget about that, because you will find all these new friends and everything's exciting, but at the end of the day, when you screw up, guess who you still run to? Your parents. So you might as well call them and say, hey, thank you, Mom, for sending me to college. I know you work really, really hard to work those nights and send me there. I just wanted to say I love you. That means a lot. Food. Last part, and I think I have 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes? You're writing? 2 minutes, okay. So food. Here's the most important thing about food. It's the pyramid theory. So this applies to everybody in the room. So what's the pyramid theory? Okay. Big breakfast, small lunch, very, very small dinner. What do you guys do right now? The complete opposite. Every time I come to like a basic function, oh my God. Yeah, I remember I had to give a talk. This was like 7, 8 years ago, and was at this masjid, and they asked me to come and talk about diabetes. Okay, I'll come and talk about diabetes. I'm fine. I showed up, and I'm talking about diabetes, and I'm telling them about all these studies on food, and then I look back, and I'm seeing them set up the food, and there's like grease up to here, and there's like samosas everywhere. There's all this like every sweet you could imagine, and then there's this line of sodas everywhere. But I'm talking here. So I'm just looking in the back. No, I'm just kidding. So here's the thing. When it comes to making sure you have a healthy diet, carbohydrates. What are carbohydrates? They're sugars. So that's bread, pasta, rice, right? Sugars. Bread is a big thing in our culture. Rice is a big thing in our culture. Is brown rice better than white rice? No. No. Is brown bread better than white bread?
Yes.
No! I just gave you the first answer. You're supposed to be my partner. Come on now, let's get with the program. The answer is no. And here's why. It all turns to sugar. Whether it turns to sugar faster or slower, it turns into sugar. And you know what's killing us? It's sugar. It's the total amount of sugar we put in our body. So if you eat a lot of bread, it turns into sugar, and that's why our stomachs start to get larger. You want to cut down your stomachs? Cut down the bread. Yes?
But I disagree with your thing about brown rice, because brown rice is actually more fibrous, so it's more filling, therefore you end up eating less of it. So, you know, you're eating less sugar.
Excellent question. So, does brown rice's fiber play a role in terms of satiety? That's the question. No. No. So the studies have actually come out and shown that the answer to that question is no. It does not. If the answer was as simple as just being able to increase the fiber in your diet, and that would turn off the satiety signals to the brain, we wouldn't have this problem in America right now. 2/3 of Americans are considered overweight. Overweight. More than half are getting close to being obese. So what ends up happening is there are so many hormonal signals that get sent from the brain, from the stomach over to the brain. The most important one is ghrelin. So when we do bypass surgery, we actually cut out the portion of your stomach that actually sends the signal called ghrelin out there. So when you're looking for patients to lose weight, what you allow them to do is in the morning, you want them to have a big breakfast. We've shown that diabetics have lower sugars throughout the day if they have a complete breakfast. What is a complete breakfast? You need your complex carbohydrates and you need your protein. You must have protein at breakfast. What's a great source of protein? Egg whites. Put some egg whites, get some oatmeal, that's a solid breakfast for you to have. So you can go ahead and do that and it will be very beneficial to you. Lunch, cut down on the amount of complex carbs you're going to have there. So have your chicken, have lots of salad, and have some. You want rice, you can pick white rice, brown rice. You want to go ahead and have a sweet potato, regular potato, that's fine. Dinner, get rid of the carbs completely. Dinner should not have carbs. And what you will find, this is based on 3 different studies now, that the people who actually did this pyramid, big breakfast, small lunch, very, very small dinner, compared to the exact opposite. If you had them eat the same type of food, the same number of calories, the results were this. Big breakfast group lost twice the weight, had better sugars, and had twice the reduction in their waist circumference. So part of my expertise in obesity medicine is everybody is some kind of an expert when it comes to nutrition. But the important thing about that is in order to move people away, you have to look at the data. The data is very important. You have to look at the studies yourself.
What about sugars from natural fruits?
So sugars from natural food, if you're a diabetic, sure, if you're a diabetic, they're just as bad as sugars from non-natural fruits, right? Fructose is fructose. So when we're worried, especially in our community where the number of diabetics is rising like crazy, sugar is still the problem. It will always be the problem. And until, as a society, we realize we need to cut down our sugars, you're going to have this rampage of diabetes coming to our culture and destroying us from within. You know the number of patients dying of heart attacks in the hospital that's coming from our cultures now has shot up like crazy. The number of diabetics we have in our culture has shot up like crazy. And the worst thing is, we don't want to talk about it. And we all think we know what the right thing to do is.
What about protein bars?
So protein bars, the problem with protein bars is the fillers, it's not the protein itself.
Okay.
But the protein itself is just fine, but it's the fillers you end up getting.
So are they harmful?
No, they're not per se harmful, but you know, the artificial fillers that they do have in there, that's the only thing that's not so good about it.
Okay. And one more, how about dates?
Dates?
Are they have too much sugar and carbs, are they?
That's the biggest thing is sugar. They taste great.
Right. And it's a good substitute for dessert, right? But still it's too much
No.
sugar. No?
No.
Because I have a lot of dates.
No. So you can't replace sugar with sugar. Yeah, you can't. Now remember, the reason this is so important is if you have anybody in your family who's a pre-diabetic or diabetic or hypertensive or overweight, you need to cut the sugar. Don't cut the sugar. You will have to come and see me in the future.
What is your style regarding the stew one?
So artificial sweeteners like stevia, Splenda, aspartame, right? So all the blue and pink packets, everybody's scared that they might cause cancer, right? So nobody takes those, but they all want to take Splenda or stevia because they think it's safer. So when we do the studies in mice, we take skinny mice, and we start feeding them. When we give them artificial sweeteners, they eat more. It's not that the sweeteners have the sugar, it's that the sweeteners fool the brain, so the brain still thinks it's hungry. So it still gets the same hormones. Ghrelin still shoots up. It gets the signal to the brain. You end up eating more of your meal if you have your Diet Coke or your Coke Zero. Or your Diet Pepsi, if there's any Pepsi fans.
Raw sugar, substituting with the
So
processed.
regular sugar, raw sugar, is there a difference? The answer is no, because at the end of the day, the sugar is sugar.
I have a question that I think it might affect a lot of people here. That's why I want to ask this. In our culture, in our background, typically for dinner, which, like you said, we have the heaviest meal. But with our meal, we'll usually have a salad or a meat with some sauce or dal, for example. But we don't eat dal plain, like in typical American culture. We don't eat salad plain with a spoon. We eat it with bread and rice. So in order to keep our taste buds happy, if we're having these salads or dals, is there a suggestion what you might recommend in substitution of bread or rice, or do you just need to eat it plain?
You know, I got to tell you, in my field, I have seen so many people die in the worst way possible. I've seen them start off with their foot cut off, their hand cut off. They come in, I put them on dialysis. So when somebody tries to ask me for negotiations, I say, the hard part about this is, it's really hard. It's really hard. The right thing to do in life is never easy. This goes for everything. You will always find that whatever the right thing to do is, it's the hardest thing to do. And the same thing goes for eating. If everything that tastes good, I gotta tell you, unfortunately, it's really not that good for you. I mean, look, I fight with my wife all the time with our daughter because I say, when she cries, she wants a lollipop. What am I teaching her? What am I teaching her? I'm teaching her that sugar is a good answer to pain. So what happens 20 years down the line when she is in pain? Food. We turn to food. And for the young women out there, there's so much pressure right now to have all these stresses on them, and then eating and all that stuff. It's crazy. Question back there.
Yeah, I want to know, can we put like leucine or maybe some BCA or some sort of amino acids in order to counteract the sugars that we already have that's present in our diet?
Right, so great question. So can you add protein to undo the harmful effects of the sugar? No, you have to cut the sugar down to undo the harmful effects.
Like straight supplement BCA.
Yeah, so so for everybody who doesn't know, branched-chain amino acids are nothing more than just protein. They are the building blocks. 40% of your muscle is made of branched-chain amino acids. That's all it is. It's a big hype in the bodybuilding world. Doesn't really mean anything. Just stick to your regular protein. You'll get plenty of BCAAs, but they want to replace the sugars.
How
about quinoa? What do you think?
So quinoa is the same thing, right? When you look at the glycemic index, all these foods, brown rice, brown bread, quinoa, they have a very low glycemic index. When you look at the study from the American Diabetic Association that came out that looked at regular glycemic index versus low glycemic index, what did they find? No difference. The people did not have any more weight loss or any more improvements in their hemoglobin A1C by adopting a low glycemic index diet. This is why now the dietitians are moving away from the glycemic index. The glycemic index was very hot the last 15 years that I remember, but now it's not.
What is the significance of the glycemic index?
Glycemic index means how fast your sugar spikes. So the lower the glycemic index, like for brown rice versus white rice, sweet potatoes versus regular potatoes, quinoa, oatmeal, those are supposed to raise your sugars much slower versus white rice, everything else raises it much faster. But when we look at this stuff, the most important thing is this. What I care about is when we look at a study, how many people are dying from heart attacks from that change? Did we reduce the number of heart attacks? Did we reduce the number of strokes? Did we reduce the number of complications from diabetes from that diet change? If you didn't, and this is why nutrition is so hard, because everything you see in the media, it becomes very hard. So that's the food part. I ran out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hashmi. It was one of the enlightening lectures I have heard. I've learned a lot. And see, I'm wearing a jacket which doesn't fit me anymore because I've lost some weight. I'm a diabetic. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.